you have a guy named Eric Harris, and on the right you have a guy named Dylan Klebold. These are their senior pictures. And on April 20th, 1999, they opened fire on their classmates. Right? It is now what we know as the Columbine Massacre. Okay? And this is a surveillance footage still shot from that day. It's from the cafeteria. Okay? And this rocked American society. Okay? Had there been violence in American society before? Oh, you bet. Just study anything in history class, right? But we had never seen anything like this in our schools, because it's a school. That's not where people go and have to worry about safety. It's where you go to learn and socialize and whatever. But on April 20th, 1999, all that changed. And it shook our society. And it is, to this day, we are living in the aftermath of that. Okay? School shootings have become more frequent. This is the first big one. And on this day, they shot 12 and killed 12 of their classmates and a teacher. Okay? And the country did not know what to do. Because the country is made up of people. And people want to know why. Okay? And so we started to point the finger. Right? Because that's what we do. We want to place blame. We want to hold certain people or groups accountable. But we didn't know what caused it. Why would two kids who had seemingly normal lives go and shoot their peers? And if you read the book that I'm going to talk about here in a second, you'll know they had way bigger plans than just killing 13 people. Right? I mean, know what I'm talking about, right? Some of you have read this book I'm going to talk about, right? So we started looking at pop culture. It's got to be the media's fault, right? It's got to be the music they listen to, right? Anybody recognize that guy up in the left corner? What's that?
I don't know that.
No, it's okay. His name's Brian Warner. His stage name is Marilyn Manson. Okay. I actually saw a kid wearing a Manson T-shirt the other day down at the cafeteria. I'm like, oh, kicking it old school. He was popular when I was in high school, right? Well, the killers listened to him, so it's got to be Marilyn Manson's fault. All his lyrics, right? But guess what? In 1999, two of the most violent films that to that point had come out. How many have seen The Matrix? Right? If you haven't, it's life homework. Okay, just go see it, or go see it, download it, steal it, whatever. I don't know what it is. Movies these days. And Fight Club came out. How many have seen Fight Club? We're not talking about it, right? That's the first two rules. Okay, another life homework piece. You got to watch this. Well, it's got to be the movies. Right? These are ultra-violent movies. They must have mimicked, right? Well, no. Maybe it's video games' fault, because in the late 90s, we started coming out with the RPG first-person shooter games. That's when those first came out. It's got to be that thing's fault, right? These guys played Doom. I know it's an old game. Anyone ever heard of it? Yeah. Okay.
That is crazy.
There you go. One of my roommates in college would stay up all night playing it. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to sleep. Turn it down. Okay? It's got to be video games' fault. Violent video games. It's got to be cartoons that are less than respectful, like South Park, or Beavis and Butthead if you are 90s connoisseurs, right? It's got to be their fault, because they're just rude and crude and crass, right? Nope, it's got to be because these kids are bullied. That can be the only explanation. And yet we now know they were the bullies, right? So we spent years trying to figure out, wondering what caused this. And then Dave Cullen came along. In 2009, he wrote a book called Columbine. How many have heard of it? How many have read it? Yep, I know there's a couple of you who probably picked it up. Yep. So in 2009, Dave Cullen comes out with Columbine, and he starts to piece the things together. What caused this? And it is a phenomenal book. Okay? I could not put it down. Powerful. Right? And his book's going to do a couple of things. I want to give you, I'm going to go English teacher here for a second, okay? AP Lang folks, you should recognize some of this stuff, right? First of all, this is a book that sort of exists in the realm of popular history. And I took a whole class in college on popular history. It's why we choose to remember the things we choose to remember. For example, I'll just give you a quick example. When it comes to World War II, what's the first name that comes to your mind? Name. Okay. Hitler, right? Pearl Harbor, right? But here's the thing. Stalin has killed more people than Hitler did. And yet we choose to elevate Hitler above Stalin in terms of like the evil, right? We do that. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. It's an example of popular history. We choose to remember certain things and ignore others. This is a book that dives into popular history. Why have we spent so much time believing what we've believed about Columbine? Right? what assumptions have we made about what happened on April 20th, 1999 in a Denver suburb? Okay? And why have we believed that? And given this book, how should we respond? Well, like, what do we do when new information is made available? That's called a forensic argument. Remember that? Yeah, you're jumping for joy, I'm sure. It's about digging into the past and saying, okay, what do we now know, and how does that change our understanding of the past so that we can shape our now and our future, okay? So, who might this book be for? Well, I think this book's pretty much for anybody, but specifically those of you who like contemporary history, like stuff within the last maybe 20, 30 years. This is going to be for you. If you like that kind of time period, this is you. If you're like, I'm so into the 90s, okay, great. This happened in 99. Grab it. If you like current events, if you like the politics that surround current events, this is going to be a good book for you. If you like mystery, like what's going to happen? Wait. Didn't this already happen? Yeah, but here's the beautiful thing about Dave Cullen's writing. It feels like it's right now. In fact, when I read this book, I was so drawn into it. I know it's history. I know it happened. I believed I could stop it from happening. Or if we could just warn somebody, those 13 people would still be alive. I felt that deeply as I read this book, right? If psychology, mental health is in any way interesting to you, this is going to be a gold mine for you. Because what we discovered is who Eric Harris really was through Dave Cullen's writing. We thought we knew him, but then the FBI declassified his journal he kept up to the point of Columbine, and Dave Cullen ran with it and just pulls out some just amazing things. It's like, how do we not see this, right? If you're into like forensic science stuff, there's a lot of that involved here. If you like social commentary, education. If you're into a serious book, you're like, I just laugh way too much. I need to get serious. This is going to be a book for you. It's very serious. It's dark at times. I wouldn't suggest reading this late at night. Because there are parts that are the way Dave Cullen writes, you're in the situation. It can be terrifying at times. My wife read this, and she's like, why didn't you warn me? I'm like, I did. She loved it. But she's like, there were just chilling moments. And they were for me too. If you want, where are my nonfiction people? Like, that's your preference. You like to read about real things? Okay, great. You're going to like this book. Where are my fiction people? Yeah, you like stuff that feels like a story. Here's the beautiful thing about this book. This feels like both. You're getting real stuff, but the way Dave Cullen writes, it feels like fiction. It just cooks through. And it's so fascinating, you forget that this is actually a real event. This can't be real. It's so engaging. And if you like multiple plot threads, or, as my AP Lang students should know, synthesis. Right? They're basically going to take all these different people's lives who are touched by this, and they're going to weave it. He's going to weave it into a coherent sort of story. You'll hear from victims, people who survived. You'll hear from law enforcement agents. You'll hear from Dylan and Eric's parents. Right? You're going to hear from administrators, teachers. It is a gripping sort of story. And so with that, I'd like to read a few pages for you, just to kind of give you a sample of how Dave Cullen sounds when he writes. And then I'll get out of your hair and let you do your thing. Okay? Now, I had a lot of choices I could have made with this book, but I'm going to go with chapter 10, the first couple pages of chapter 10. This is called Judgment. Okay. On Tuesday morning, the boys rose early as usual. It was dark, but warm already, set to soar into the 80s with blue skies, perfect for their fires. It was going to be a beautiful day. Dylan was out of the house by 5:30. His parents were still in bed. He called out bye and shut the door behind himself. They skipped bowling class and went straight to work. Dylan scrawled the schedule into Eric's day planner under the heading, Make Today Count. Eric illustrated it with a blazing gun barrel. First stop was a grocery store where they met up to acquire the last of the propane tanks. 2 for the cafeteria, 2 for the car, and 2 for the decoy. The big bombs were the heart of the attack. Let me pause here for a second. I want to give you some context. Their plan was to destroy the entire school. They were going to blow the whole thing up and kill everybody. Okay? They got 13. Tragic, yet think about what could have been. Right? So just that little bit of context there. Eric had designed them months before, but had left acquisition to the final morning. The boys had stashed most of the arsenal in Eric's bedroom closet, and he had faced a couple of close calls with his parents already. Hiding a cluster of 20-pound tanks in there was out of the question. They returned to Eric's house at 7, and they split up. Eric filled the propane tanks, Dylan got the gasoline. They allotted half an hour to assemble the big bombs and set up the cars, an hour for one last round of gear up, practice, and chill. They got something to eat. Dylan apparently had potato skins. Several friends noticed peculiarities. Robin Anderson was surprised to see Dylan a no-show for calculus. He had sounded fine on the phone the previous night. Then a friend told her Eric had been missing from third hour. The boys cut an occasional class together, but never an entire morning. Robin hoped Dylan wasn't sick. She had made a mental note to call home once she got home. Their friend Brooks Brown had a stronger reaction. Eric had missed a test in psychology class. What kind of a stunt was that? Chill time was over. It had gone on too long, perilously over schedule. Shortly before 11 a.m., Eric and Dylan set off with the arsenal. Dylan wore cargo pants, a black t-shirt printed with wrath, and his Red Sox cap turned backward, as usual. His cargo pockets were deep enough to conceal most of the sawed-off shotgun before he pulled on the duster. Eric's t-shirt said Natural Selection. They both wore black combat boots and shared a single pair of black gloves, the right on Eric, the left on Dylan. They left 2 pipe bombs behind at Eric's house, 6 at Dylan's. Eric laid a micro cassette on the kitchen counter with some final thoughts. They also left the basement tapes with a final goodbye recording that morning. They drove separate cars to a park near Eric's house, dumped the decoy bombs in a field, and set the timers for 11:14. Combat operations were underway. So, if you are interested in Columbine, our library is stocked with 10 copies of this. When I first read this back when it came out, and I started promoting it in my own classes, this started flying off the shelves. We couldn't keep them in stock, I guess. If you go on our the Granville Library homepage, you can see the most checked out books. This is 1, 2, or 3 every single year. It's a very powerful book. I encourage you to take a look at it. You will be angry. You will likely cry if you have a soul. This is emotionally powerful. You will be scared at times, but totally worth it, because you all grew up in the shadow of Columbine. Okay, when were you guys born? What, 2000? Yeah. So you guys have never not known a world without school violence. Okay. You've grown up with 9/11 and Columbine. Every generation has its sort of historical markers. For my dad, it was Kennedy's assassination. I think for your generation, I think we're already seeing that it's going to be Columbine and 9/11 in so many ways. So if you're interested, go take a look. I'll go return this one in case you want to get at it, and all other 9 copies are gone. So there you have it. Columbine, Dave Cullen. Check it out.